The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains of Margaret Delaney's kitchen as she folded her hands around a warm mug of tea. At 78, Margaret had lived through wars, recessions, and political shakeups, but nothing had caused quite as much chatter at the Senior Center as the passage of the Big Beautiful Bill Act. Signed into law by former President Donald Trump during his controversial second term, the legislation had been hailed by supporters as a transformative fix for America's aging population, and derided by critics as a flashy piece of political theater. For Margaret, the bill was personal. When it was first introduced, the name alone had sparked jokes. The Big Beautiful Bill Act, boldly branded with Trump's signature flair, sounded more like a TV show than a piece of legislation. But the fine print revealed ambitious promises: expanded Medicare coverage, reduced prescription drug prices, investment in long-term care facilities, and monthly cash supplements for seniors earning below a certain threshold. In short, it was a sweeping attempt to overhaul the way America treated its elderly. Margaret, a retired librarian from Scranton, Pennsylvania, had been following the bill's progress with cautious hope. After her husband's passing 5 years earlier, she'd been living on a fixed income, juggling medical bills and watching her savings shrink. Her insulin alone cost hundreds a month, forcing her to make trade-offs that would have horrified her younger self. Then the news broke. The bill had passed. Trump, standing before a gilded podium in Palm Beach, declared it the most beautiful piece of legislation the world has ever seen, folks. Nobody's ever done anything like this for our seniors. The effect on Margaret's life was swift. In the first month after the law took effect, she noticed her Medicare Part D plan had changed. The dreaded donut hole coverage gap that had cost her dearly in out-of-pocket expenses was gone. Her insulin, which once drained her budget, now cost a mere $35 a month. She could hardly believe it. She kept rereading the pharmacy receipt, blinking back tears. But it wasn't just her medication. The Big Beautiful Bill Act had allocated billions to modernize and improve nursing homes and senior living communities. This meant more inspectors, better staffing ratios, and mandatory transparency for care providers. Her friend Luis, a wheelchair-bound Korean War veteran who had been struggling in a poorly run care home, was suddenly receiving daily physical therapy and had access to nutritious meals again. "It's like someone remembered we exist," he told her over bingo. For seniors like Margaret and Lewis, the cash supplement, dubbed the Golden Age Dividend by Trump's PR team, was another unexpected boon. While modest, the extra $400 a month made the difference between scraping by and living with dignity. Margaret could finally replace her cracked dentures and even splurge on a new pair of walking shoes. At the same time, not everyone was happy. Critics slammed the bill as economically reckless. News pundits questioned the sustainability of its funding, which relied partly on new tariffs and a sweeping overhaul of federal procurement contracts. Libertarians accused it of expanding government overreach. Some accused Trump of using the elderly as political pawns to solidify support among a loyal voter base. In Congress, Democrats were split. Some progressives had long championed similar reforms, but others were wary of aligning with a president known for his polarizing rhetoric. "It's a good idea wrapped in a bad brand," one senator quipped. Still, public opinion was turning. Approval ratings for the act soared among voters over 65, many of whom viewed the changes as not only necessary, but overdue. Back in Scranton, Margaret watched the national debate unfold on her living room TV, often shaking her head at the shouting matches and talking heads. She didn't pretend to understand every nuance of federal budgeting, but she understood what it meant to choose between paying the electric bill or buying a blood pressure monitor. For her, the bill wasn't about politics. It was about survival. The local senior center, once a dwindling social hub, experienced a quiet renaissance. With new federal grants, they upgraded their facilities and launched a host of new programs, everything from fall prevention workshops to digital literacy classes. Margaret, who had never touched a smartphone before, learned how to video chat with her granddaughter in Oregon. She even signed up for a poetry class, rediscovering her love of words. Not all stories ended happily. The bill's rollout had glitches. In some rural areas, seniors complained of confusion and delays. Some pharmacies didn't have the updated pricing systems in place. Others struggled to navigate the new coverage changes without clear guidance. There were reports of fraud, unscrupulous actors preying on confused seniors by impersonating government officials or charging fees for what were meant to be free services. Still, the positive changes far outweighed the chaos. In Florida, where senior populations were highest, entire communities mobilized around the bill's benefits. Free shuttle services to clinics became more common. Senior employment programs, another component of the legislation, gave older Americans access to part-time work opportunities with flexible hours and health protections. Economists remained split. Some warned that the program would balloon the national deficit unless adjustments were made. Others argued that investing in senior health would reduce long-term medical costs and boost economic stability. Trump himself continued to tout the bill at rallies and in interviews, often claiming it as proof that he understood the forgotten people better than anyone. Margaret had no interest in political rallies. She didn't vote for Trump, and she didn't like the way he spoke about a lot of things. But when she took her morning walks and breathed in the fresh air without worrying whether her arthritis meds would run out next week, she had to admit something had changed. The system, broken for so long, was finally beginning to bend in the right direction. 6 months after the bill's passage, Margaret attended a town hall hosted by her local congresswoman. There she stood up, her voice a little shaky, her hands still strong, and told her story. About the sleepless nights worrying over copays, the shame of asking her son for money, the fear of slipping through the cracks, and about how, for the first time in years, she felt seen. There was no applause when she finished, only a respectful hush. Then someone at the back of the room started clapping, and soon the whole room joined in. Not for the former president, not for politics, but for the idea that maybe, just maybe, this country could take care of its own. That night, Margaret wrote her first poem in 30 years. She titled it The Beautiful Bill. It wasn't about Donald Trump. It was about hope, resilience, and the quiet dignity of growing old in a nation that finally remembered its elders.